Hey, everybody. I know it'll take a minute for folks to get in here if they're going to join us, but hope that if you're watching on replay or if you're in here with us live, hope we'll have some useful stuff for you tonight. We've been talking all week about effective use of Zoom and the realities of the modern world, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more tonight here. Just we've entitled it, as you can see, The One Zoom Essential. And we've kind of hinted at it a little bit. People get a little antsy about the technology. Am I using it correctly? What buttons do I push? What kind of lighting do I need? We do need to pay attention to that sort of thing, but it's not the essential thing. The thing that is really essential for Zoom, for effective use of Zoom, is to keep in mind something that is generally true about speaking. Okay, and that is that the only reason for them to listen to you is you. The only reason for them to spend time with you is you. When we fall into the trap of thinking that what we're speaking about in any format, whether it's live on stage or via Zoom or in a live broadcast like this, if the main thing, the only thing is the information, well, guess what? They've got the same internet. Okay, the internet means that if it's just about the information, they can find it faster than you can tell it to them. The only reason that they're going to come and spend time with you is because of what you bring to the information. That is your experience, your point of view, your unique stories about it. Now, what we're bringing to Zoom that is beyond that is the fact that they need a sense of presence. They need to feel like that they are present themselves, and they need to feel like that you are present. I see people that fall into a trap of being a talking head. I took some classes, and we're not going to throw anybody under the bus with this, okay? A lot of folks trying to figure out how they can take what works in the classroom and bring it into the Zoom environment or some other virtual environment. But the one I'm thinking of, we spent 3 hours in a class, and pretty much the entire time was either the instructor talking or the instructor showing PowerPoint. Now, there's an effective way to use PowerPoint on Zoom, and in the classes that we teach, we show you how to use Zoom and use PowerPoint in that setting effectively. But this is a little different point here. If all we've got on the Zoom screen is the person, all we've got on the Zoom screen is the talking head of the PowerPoint, it might as well be a video. And just to kind of illustrate that, we've got a guest with us here. I see Gary Wilkin in the green room. So let's bring Gary in here. Hey, Gary, how you doing?
Doing well. Thanks for letting me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's rearrange things here a little bit so we can see more of your room there. This is something that you can't do with a recorded video, right? Yep. Can't bring people in, have a conversation. Even if all you're doing is getting people to respond in chat, there's that interaction, that sense of presence. And I'm not sure exactly when you joined us here, Gary. So we were just saying that the one essential thing in any Zoom conversation is you. And then what makes it special to Zoom is the sense of presence. That is that they're present with you, you are present with them. Has that been your experience? I'm betting you've probably done several Zoom calls.
Yeah, and I think there's kind of two classes of Zoom calls that I've been on. Zoom calls where it's a conversation and we're all on there, or there's like a mastermind where there's a hot seat and people are interacting. And then there's the presentation Zoom call, which is kind of, might as well be a one-way communication where, that type of thing. And so if it's the interactive type of Zoom call, that's where that's the presence. That's where you can interact and do a little chat and that type of stuff. Is that
which one would you rather be involved in?
Well, okay, so let's take three guesses. Well, yeah, I mean, we don't do this because we want to go sit in the corner by ourselves. We do this to interact, right? So.
Exactly. And I mean, it's so easy to fall into uh, I'm going to attend a virtual class. I'm not going to have my camera on. I'm not going to turn on my microphone. I'm just going to sit there and watch. One of the things David Newman showed us today, and I've known about this for a little while, if you're watching a video on YouTube and most other platforms, you can watch it at 1.5 speed or even twice the normal speed. Why would you sit and just listen to a Zoom call? But people do it because the presenter doesn't think to engage them, to involve them. Has that been, just from your point of view, is it that the presenter that's doing the talking head thing, they don't ask for engagement, or are they asking for it and people aren't giving it?
Well, I think, and I think there's obviously we're identifying good Zoom presenters and poor Zoom presenters. And I agree that if it's a webinar and it's a educational, but kind of the infomercial type of thing, they're much more engaging. If they think that this is a purely educational presentation and trying to dump out information, they forget that even with education, you really need to have interaction, because back in the day when we sat in classrooms and the teacher was up at the front, she would ask questions and we'd all hold our hand up. And so, even when we're educating, we need to interact. And so I think people forget that it isn't just the presentation that communicates knowledge, it's interaction to make sure people are getting it, that they're still engaged, that type of stuff. So does that make sense? Was that answering your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm wondering, when you ask people this question, it puts them on the spot. They can't necessarily think of something right off the top. But if you can think of a specific Zoom interaction that went really well, that was engaging, what was the presenter doing that engaged you? The asking questions, the chat responses, anything come to mind?
Well, it was a I've got a very specific one in mind, and she was presenting some just key ideas. We were in a mastermind group, and she was presenting some key ideas of how to do it, and she would stop and say, does this make sense? What concerns you have, whatever, and okay, and then she would address those and talk a little more, and so it was mimicking more of I still go back to the classic schoolroom, teacher-student interaction, where there was some presentation, people get it, you have questions, people would ask questions, and then I think the one thing that even made it more engaging was she promoted and allowed peer-to-peer questions. So she would make a presentation, she would make a point, and maybe I asked a question and someone else says, oh, I know about that, let me bring it in. And so it takes it away from the hierarchy of me teacher, you student, to we're all in this together. I'm facilitating, and if I can help and get cross communication between the participants and me, then that's even better.
There's an interesting aspect to what you're saying there in a classroom. And for context, folks that don't know me, I've taught college classes for the last 30 years. So, I've kind of seen this transition into the online stuff. Right. You don't want cross conversations going on in a classroom. If I'm up front presenting and somebody in the back, they're talking to each other, then that disturbs the people around them and gets in the way. Sometimes I'll see people who, for their Zoom calls, they'll set it up to where they cannot chat to each other. It's only chatting with the host, or can only chat to everybody. They'll disallow private chats. Okay. And I think that's a mistake. I understand people being worried about focus, but let's say if you and I are in a Zoom class together, and I just missed something that was said, if I send you a private message, what was that about? And you reply to me, we're not disturbing anybody around us.
No.
And that back channel catches both of us up. I actually encourage it, especially since I usually record the Zoom classes so that if somebody missed something, they've got the replay.
Yeah.
Now, that's something you can't do in a live classroom. That's really taking advantage of the Zoom environment.
Right.
Now, without throwing somebody under the bus, can you think of one particular Zoom experience that was horrific?
Uh, it was the classic talking head of I've been asked to present this topic, and here's my slide deck, and blah 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 blah. And the phrase "death by PowerPoint," and it was, oh my gosh, it was death by PowerPoint, and 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 the points weren't even the 3 to 4 words, 15 characters or less per line. It was like text. And of course, he felt obligated to read word for word. And it was like, just shoot me,
So I think it's even worse when they do that on Zoom, because you're already not as active.
Right.
Now, the one advantage there is that you can always just kind of turn your camera off and turn off the mic and go get some coffee or something.
Yeah.
But that's, from a presenter's standpoint, that's even more of a reason to be engaging. What you're talking about, I've spent the last several years teaching people how to do effective PowerPoint, which, as you've already alluded to, it's avoiding all that text on screen, all those bullet points. So one of the things that strikes me about PowerPoint, though, in Zoom, and maybe you've seen this, people will have a decent PowerPoint slide deck, but they'll start the Zoom call, they'll put their slide up on the screen, and then we never see them again, or we only see the little tiny post. Yeah. So one of the things we want to share with people who maybe hear this on the replay is take advantage of something that happens in television. You'll notice on TV that even if all they can do is to change the camera angle every so often, they'll do that at least every 7 seconds because the movement is engaging. So what I would recommend to people is that, show your PowerPoint slides and then stop screen sharing, come back to the presenter. If I need to put myself up here just to have some motion for a minute, and then come back to Gary. And I'll bet there's probably a way, I'm still figuring out this interface here, but there's probably a way for me to put Gary in the focus here. Maybe, solo layout. Yeah, I can put Gary right there.
Well, there's some things that can't be unseen.
Yeah. But if you come back to yourself every so often and then go back to the slide deck, then just that simple thing makes Zoom more engaging.
Good point.
All of them give you that sense of presence. You just need to have the sense that there's a human being there. Now, positive story here. One of my colleagues who teaches English, who had initially said, I don't want to do this online thing. I just want to be in the classroom. I miss the students. I miss the connection. We were all virtual this term, the one that just wound up this spring. And they had this regular thing in their class to where they would show their pets. And my cat usually is right here, right beside me. He's decided to leave right now, but the people would show their pets. And then one of the pets died during the semester. And everybody just kind of got teary-eyed, and they were sending notes of support. And these people had never seen each other in person. But they had formed a community. And for folks who are watching the replay here, Gary and I have just connected for the first time this week. We've been in a community this week.
Yep.
And I've made some new friends. I'll probably never see any of them in person, but I feel that connection.
Yeah. And I think that's the value that we have to remember in this virtual society. What do we say is that this connection is even more vital. We've had that, hopefully we're getting back faster to, real in-person stuff, person to person, but even this kind of connection, and, how we were working on via Messenger to get my other thing figured out and back and forth, having that virtual connection gives you a sense of, there's people out there that I like me, or we have aligned values and that type of stuff. And so it makes you feel like, even though I'm the only one in the room or in the house, whatever, I know there's other people out there. And so I think that connection is what you're talking about is really critical.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we had another couple of people on here with us just a moment ago. I was going to say, get on here with Live with Don, not Live with Don, but Live with Don. But I think we may have lost some of them. No, you didn't have to come on. Okay, we weren't going to make you come on.
Yeah.
Well, as we get ready to just kind of wrap our thoughts up about this, I want to mention next Tuesday we'll be going live again. Going to be looking specifically at some folks that I work with, which is pastors and Sunday school teachers, and a lot of these folks have been saying, "Can't wait to get back into in person," and now we're back in person, and the numbers are still down. People, for whatever reason, they're hesitant to come back. They've gotten used to not coming. But one of the things that we've noticed in the last year is that we've reached a whole population of people who normally would not even set foot. And here's one of my colleagues now. I'm going to add Ben to the stream here because he may have some thoughts on this. Ben, meet Gary. Gary, meet Ben.
Howdy. Oh, you're still.
How's it going, man? Got his microphone muted. There we go.
My fault.
That's okay. That's okay. In fact, I'm going to start advising people to mute their mic when they come in, because then that, if they've got the thing playing on a tab, they won't get that echo thing.
Right.
Yeah, so Gary, Ben is one of those folks who's been doing this virtual thing for a year or so. And Ben, I can't remember if you've been doing like Sunday school also, or if you've been doing fireside chats, or
I've kind of been doing a mix. Mostly what we've done for our like Sunday morning worship services is I turned it into a one-man production crew. I made the best of what budget we had and everything. And while we were not meeting in person, it was I was in the Word StreamYard. We used Zoom. I used Zoom to talk with people, but I didn't have an account where, like a paid account where I could have my own, unlimited whatever. So it was always somebody else who set up the meeting and, did that and stuff. But I did actually used a piece of software called Logic Capture that could only use for specific kinds of webcams. And so, but the software was free. The software in itself was free, and it's kind of like a mini production. Like you could have two sources, so you could switch back and forth between, the video source where I was talking, and then you can go to the source where the liturgy or the responsive reading or the scripture for, everybody who's tuning in, whether it be live or whether it was, they call it replay. Had that there, and I could put both the scripture reading or the liturgy reading up on the screen, plus myself. But nothing super fancy. It was free. That's all I did. I tried to save my church as much money as possible.
Oh,
but,
yeah. You got to save the money, but and just having the two things on the screen makes it a little bit more engaging there.
Yeah, it does, and especially like if they see me reading like the plain text, and they see me stop, then they know it's then their turn to read. Their portion of the responsive, and when I first started, it was like, okay, I've read my part, and then I'd just sit there and wait, and then I'd start again. And it felt awkward. It really felt awkward. And then after about 2 or 3 times of doing that, I had some people like, Ben, you're not giving us time to talk. I was like, okay. And so, the way I did that was I started reading their part in my mind, like as I would be if I was speaking it. And then that way, it allowed, and so that allowed a chance for, it was interaction without having interaction. But as far as it comes to doing like Sunday school and stuff like that, it was we did really the only thing we had going in the church was just a Sunday morning service, because the only people that we had that went to Sunday school are in the I will say the more experienced age demographic. And
I wonder who that
really, And
Gary, he's being kind because I'm in that same demographic there. So.
Right. But they weren't really crazy about trying to use technology or trying to do all that stuff. And so,
Yeah.
In fact, I had caught a lot of flack for the fact that, we weren't meeting. I'm like, okay, so you want to get sick? And just dealing with a lot of other different conspiracy theories. It's just it's nuts. Nothing QAnon level, but still, it was, it was still discouraging sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, that's frustrating. But one of the things I do hear sometimes from both pastors and college teachers, and Gary, I don't know if you run into this with what you're trying to do with myretirementmission.com. We'll get the word out there, Gary.
Okay.
That it's not so much a matter of, let's see, how can I put this succinctly? I will have people who would say, I don't want to get on that Zoom thing, the technology, I'm being left out. Well, we don't want to leave you out, but at the same time, if all we're doing is in that traditional building, in that sanctuary, we're leaving out a lot of other people who would never set foot inside that building.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
It's not a matter of either or. It can be, as Jason Moore says, both and.
Yeah.
And so, Gary, do you reach a different population, do you think, when you do the Zoom stuff?
Not really. I think, because I'm really working with, the kind of the retired or about to retire tech IT folks. But that still doesn't mean, I've still run across guys that had their admin assistant print out their emails. So, I don't want to forget that, but at least being willing and able and having the base unit there to be able to do, the communication. That's the biggest problem. Like, is do they actually have a laptop with a webcam and speakers? Do they have the facilities to be able to actually do it? And then, if they do and they don't know how to do it, then that's a different issue. Then you can help them get it, squared away or however you can do it. But if they don't even have the base, if they don't have a phone, you can't call them, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So the folks that I'm working with are pretty much have been in the tech community for a while. However, I do have some folks that just prefer a voice only call, and there's a higher level of commitment when you think about it for being on video, because I have to make sure that I brush my teeth, comb my hair, and all that kind of good stuff. Whereas on a phone call, I can have my fuzzy slippers on and my PJs, and I'm still don't laugh. Fuzzy slippers are a good thing, Ben.
No, I'm not laughing about the fuzzy slippers. I'm laughing about the fact that there's been. I know none of my parishioners are going to see this, so I can be completely open and honest about this.
No, if it's recorded, you're going to be seen.
Yeah.
So,
it's out there in public on Facebook, man. So be careful.
Right. No, it's fine. But there've been. It was really hard for me to get back into the whole thing of like dressing up with like the shirt and tie and the jacket and thing once we resumed in person, because I got to the point where like I would wear one of my, button-up plaid shirts, like a sports shirt, just like, dressed down casual kind of thing, and but then wearing a pair of athletic pants and like a pair of Crocs or like flip-flops or something, because they couldn't see that portion of.
You were top heavy. You were great, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and in the tradition that we work in, Gary, it's not uncommon for pastors to wear robes. And I said that was always just so that I didn't have to go out and put on a clean shirt,
Oh man, dude! Before I was even a pastor, I was a high school band director, and when we would do graduation ceremonies and stuff, all those kinds of things, we would wear our academic regalia, and man, it's like there was always a teacher dress code for what it was we were supposed to do. And I always showed up like I had on a dark pair of jeans and like a cut-off T-shirt underneath my stuff, because I was wearing my arms,
But see, you have the advantage. You can actually remember high school.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. Well, before we get off of here today, want to make sure that folks know coming up here, we are going to have a training next Thursday, May 20th, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. It's especially for pastors and for Sunday school teachers. What we're going to be talking about, of course, is just using Zoom effectively, and that can be for anybody. But what we're going to be looking specifically at the context here in the Holston Conference, United Methodist Church. So you'll see crawling across the bottom down there, bit.ly/Zoom Shorts. What that will do is it will get you a handy list, a handy guide of Zoom shortcuts. Because I'm not so much about the technology. We just want to enable people to use Zoom effectively. In fact, the way I put it is, let's just learn enough of the technology so we can forget about the technology and focus on our message. And so that shortcuts guide will help reduce your fumbling and will help increase your sense of confidence. Now, as part of getting that, then we will also send you the links to be able to see more about that event. It's a free event next Thursday. And if you are interested in it, to be able to register for it.
Oh, absolutely.
So, so folks who are seeing the replay, that's going to be available to you. Okay. And then, Ben would love to see you again. Ben and I did some training together, Gary, and I guess haven't seen you in 2 years, 3 years?
Almost, yeah.
Yeah. It was good to see you again. And
I just happened to be in my office taking a break from other pastorally duties and saw the live streams. I thought I'd check it out. I've been seeing you pop up all week about this stuff, and I was wanting to see what it was all about.
What we were doing, yeah. And I think you went walking. I think you were going into the sanctuary there.
That's correct.
Yeah. So sorry if I cut you off. Maybe you were going to give us the nickel tour there, but
No, you didn't. No, it's fine. It's
okay,
fine.
very good.
Cutting off. I forgot to cut myself off.
Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up tonight, guys. We've been on here just about half an hour. Hope we have just offered one idea here that would be useful to you. Don't get hung up on the technology. The thing about Zoom, the one Zoom essential is you. You're the reason people are coming to listen. If they just want the information, they can get it on the internet. But the thing that Zoom adds to it is they need a sense of your presence and them being present with you. That's the real strength of Zoom, not the talking head thing. So we'll be looking at in that webinar next Thursday, we'll be looking at practical stuff that we can share with folks to help them to be more effective with the use of Zoom. So thanks to the panelists for being on here with us. We'll go ahead and end the broadcast here, but you guys would still be able to interact with people if you want to in the comments, the chat. Thanks for being here. Take care.